What's up, everybody? Future player JDK here, doing another Saturday Night Live review. This one is for Saturday Night Live Season 44, Episode number 14. Host John Mulaney, almost said Jonathan, and musical guest Thomas Rhett. So this started, the cold opener was, as expected, the hearing for Michael Cohen. I enjoyed the intro for C-SPAN being, C-SPAN? Inquiring as to you're watching C-SPAN? Really? I'm not sure who did the voice thing, but it sounded familiar. I think it's SNL writer that has done that intro before for C-SPAN and things like that. So you had quite a few things going on in this one. You had Keenan as Elijah Cummings. You had a little quip featuring Cortez, which was Melissa Villaseñor being able to play Hispanic, which is nice, and she does a great Cortez. Then you had the reprisal of Cohen, played by Ben Stiller himself, which is phenomenal. He's increased his ability to play Cohen even more than his previous Cohen, which was just him being Ben Stiller. This one felt much more like Cohen. He's a character, though, so that's fun, I bet, to play. He had the one thing I'd say is Ben Stiller made a thing about Trump being racist, which was actually something that Cohen said, but then he actually broke and was Ben Stiller's, and he said, would have thought it got a bigger reaction. And when I first watched it, I thought actually that was Stiller in character. Then the second time watching it through, I've come to realize, I was like, oh, okay. Stiller kind of broke. He was surprised himself it didn't get a larger reaction. I wonder if in the opening for the dress rehearsal, it got a larger laugh, possibly. Then you also had Bill Hader coming in, which doesn't surprise me. Hader would be in a John Mulaney episode because him and Mulaney just likes writing for Hader. And so Hader was Jim Gordon, and he had a lot of fun. Second to Pete Davidson, I put down because, Pete Davidson is Mulaney's favorite, it seems, and I'll get to that further in this episode. Then you had McKinnon as Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It's just a fun thing. She did a quip about, okay, now we're going to get much more New York, and we're going to have our accents a lot thicker. That kind of thing. Then you had Mooney as Paul Gassar, and you had Moffat as Mark Meadows, and then you had Ego Udim as not Omarosa, basically, which was just a joke about ignorance, essentially, which is fun, especially if you've seen my other review for 44 episode 4 when I had to make a second review because of my ignorance toward Ego. That's why, it's a nice little thing. Alright, and then you had John Mulaney doing his host thing, which is basically just John Mulaney's stand-up, and that leads me to say this entire episode is personally my least favorite to review. If I had done Season 43, I would have said the same thing about Mulaney once again. I recognized that Mulaney had a failed show on Fox. He was probably forced to take that because it was his third offer, most likely. And as you know about SNL, that you have to always take your third offer. But I always thought that was from NBC. Anyway, it's not a big deal or nothing. If you really like John Mulaney, you'll love this episode because it's nothing but Mulaney. Me personally, I don't care. So I just say skip his stand-up. That leads into What's Their Name, which was Hader as a host, which was fun to have him play around again. It's, a nice little thing to see Hader on SNL. And you had Mulaney and Cicely as the people on the show. And you had Gardner as the friend's girlfriend, which I enjoyed because of the fact that I can't remember my friend's girlfriend's names most of the times in the week because of the fact that I know their turnover rate is pretty high. So to bother learning the girl's name that might not be around next week, and then you had the wife from A Holiday Party. Other Wives was a nice little thing they played around with because, the fact that Cicely's character was not a wife. She was one of the people that was at the law firm. And then you had the Bridesmaids for Mulaney's wife, and couldn't remember that, and then that was fun. Then you had it went into, essentially, it was a commercial for dying on the toilet, and it would launch you onto a bed instead. It was super stupid. It was, to the 100th percentile degree, the school of John Mulaney improv, and that's the least favorite of mine is John Mulaney style comedy. So John Mulaney improv is not my thing, and that's all the dying on the toilet sketch was, so you might enjoy it if you like John Mulaney. Me personally, I found it to be pretty childish. And, it's alright, but it won't stand the test of time like Schmidt's Gay will. Um, then the third thing you had was Shark Tank Legal Edition. So you had Pete Davidson playing as Michael Vanetti. I haven't looked it up yet. I'm going to look it up before I post this. But I got to say, most likely it was just Pete being Pete and, saying sexual innuendos. I don't think he probably portrayed Vanetti at all. However, that's fine. It's Pete. Then you have Cicely, who was Judge Janine again, which is great. Her being Judge Janine is always a winner. Judge Janine in general is just a hilarious character. Then you had the host, John Mulaney, being Alan Dershowitz, and I need to look that one up as well, but I'm pretty sure it was just John Mulaney being John Mulaney. And then you had McKinnon coming back as Rudy Giuliani, which is always fun. McKinnon and Giuliani is like Mr. Penguin. It's just a very clever, funny, silly, and unfortunately terribly accurate portrayal of the current Giuliani. Then you had Moffat and Mooney as these like Selenio and Barnes attorneys at law, which are they're like claims attorneys for insurance fraud or getting hit by a car, whatever kind of stuff. And I get the feeling that Mulaney wrote this. I have a feeling, or helped write it, and Moffat and Mooney are basically the punchline of it. So you had Beck come in as the Patriots owner, which was current for that week's humor. And then you had Chris Redd coming in as Jesse Perez, also current for that week's humor. Ultimately, I'm not even putting a top 3 on this one. I really didn't care for this entire episode. But this sketch was, it was all right. It's whatever, man. You can tell when Mulaney's on. It's a lot of just Mulaney. Which leads to number 4. So this was called The Unknown Caller. That's what I titled it. It was Pete reprising his role as Chad. And it's been a while since we've seen Chad. So if you like Chad, this is probably the only sketch that I would consider putting up in the top 3 because I like Chad. I enjoy his bits. Which Chad is just Pete being a slightly less Pete type personality. You can tell Mulaney must have wrote for Chad when he was on, or possibly you can tell he enjoys writing for Chad because Chad hasn't been around since Mulaney's been gone, and Mulaney's back now, and we have a Chad bit, which is fine. That's my best guess anyway. Then that led into the cousin's wedding, where John Mulaney's like the white guy at a black wedding rehearsal, or the music part at the end. So whatever that's called, I don't know. I don't care about weddings. But anyway, it was Mulaney as the white guy, and then you had people coming in and out. Ego Wadim was his black date, and you had Chris Redd coming in as his fraternity brother, which made me interested. I'm like, maybe I should look up. There might have been some reality. Maybe Chris Redd did have a fraternity connection. I doubt it, though. I think it's just a character, of course. But it was fun. It was silly. And then you had Leslie Jones' Aunt Georgette, which was interesting as well. Then you had the DJ, played by Kenan, which was already great, leading the whole thing with this little like music thing, like electric slide type thing with little bits of add-ons. But then you also had with that, you had him becoming the brother at the end, which also knew Mulaney. But then, it was an okay sketch overall. It was kind of neat, as far as being the white guy in a black club kind of thing. But otherwise, it was just Mulaney being Mulaney again. And it's like, okay, an episode of John Mulaney, basically. Then what you got? Weekend Update. So the only thing in Weekend Update I was happy. Well, I was kind of disappointed. I don't know. It's weird. I know they retired Stefan, but you would think since you had Hader and Mulaney, you could bring Stefan again like they did. But they didn't do Stefan. So if anything, respect for not doing Stefan. But then you did have a new character thing. Man, this season, these last few episodes, Adie and McKinnon are definitely duoing up really fucking efficiently. So they were Vanetta and Willeen, and they were Smokery Farms, a gift package people. And they gave them a plate of actual raw meat, and you could tell them getting disgusted by the smell and everything. And I don't know if that was intentional or last second, but I could get the feeling Mulaney's the type of prankster that would have thrown it in at the last second just to mess with them. But then maybe I'm giving too much credit to John Mulaney. But either way, the raw meat part add-on was kind of interesting. Some of that meat looked edible. I almost wonder if I had been doing it. If I hadn't, I would have just taken it to that, like, even with the raw meat, knowing that it's healthy enough to spit out if you don't want to swallow. See, I can do it too, Pete. Let's see. Oh, okay. So that was that. And let's see. Oh, forgot to toss that one. And then that led into sketch number 6, which was the bodega bathroom. Once again, like here's the thing. John Mulaney likes writing these musicals. Basically, they had this thing which was Les Miserables Lobster the last time that he hosted, which apparently was a sketch that never got to air while he was writing. And so, because he was a host, he finally got to push it to air. Essentially, is what I understood. So I'm guessing Bodega Bathroom might have been another one. Personally, I really didn't like this sketch because all they did with this sketch was several different musicals and then just parodied the songs out of them. And it just, overall, this sketch really felt lazy to me. And, that being said, the set design was intricate and amazing. So if I'm going to compliment the Bodega Bathroom sketch, I'm going to just simply say the set design was through the roof, professional, amazing, beautiful stuff. But otherwise, I mean, I'll go through the list of characters real quick. But John Mulaney as John Mulaney, Pete Davidson as Pete Davidson, Chris Redd as Chris Redd. Pete's character's name was Charlie, which added to a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory theme over the entire thing, I guess. But then you had Beck as a toilet, doing references to the plant from Little Shop of Horrors. You had Kate McKinnon as the Virgin Mary candle, singing famous the Butterfly, Madame Butterfly operetta, parodying that one. And then you had Adie Bryant, Kyle Mooney, and Mikey Day being Oompa Loompas toward the end. And then you finish it off with, I put ugh on here, like, come on, it's such a groan. Seriously, it's so overplayed in the last month, 2 months, nonstop. Just like all these ridiculous, like, even Star Trek Discovery did a parody thing of The Rent. But everyone always picks the same Rent song. And it's like, come on, there are other songs. And like, it's under 30 years old, for Christ's sake. Like, come on, man. Like, Rent, they did not. Just anything, come on. It was crap. Then I would say the only sketch I really enjoyed was the Duat, Kanan being Duat again, and his PBS Classics. And this thing was John Mulaney being John Mulaney again, even though he had the privilege to attempt Mulaney, damn it, attempt at being Bogart, or even a little bit Bogart, but no, instead it's John Mulaney, black and white, and then McKinnon doing a phenomenal portrayal of an actress from the era piece. And it was all playing on the theme of, you know how to whistle, don't you? You know how to whistle, don't you? And how sensual it was. But then everything that came after. So it was Mulaney being himself again. And a bunch of silly humor, which I appreciate McKinnon carrying the entire scene. I mean, other than when Duat is leading in with Keenan, McKinnon had to carry Mulaney through the entire thing. Entire thing. And that was it. That was the episode. And personally, I'd give it maybe a 2 out of 10. Seriously, it might be the only thing that doesn't get me on SNL is the fact that I riff on John Mulaney and can't stand his style at all. But in reality, I'm sure he's a great person in real life. I would more than grateful to have him put me on anything SNL related, sketch-wise, whatever it takes, basically. But otherwise, I could care less. John Mulaney is a hack to me. He just does a bunch of potty comedy, and not the good kind. He does the adult potty comedy that's not child-friendly. But the Bodega Bathroom, that would have been child-friendly. In fact, if I was a fucking 5-year-old, I probably would have loved that sketch. But I'm not. I'm pushing something at, I don't know. I'm older than 25. I love y'all. Thanks for watching. Future reviews coming up, I'm sure. This is the last one for tonight. Peace.